how his attempt to alter her personality ended up in a disaster on the hypnotic order of Jesus. I used to know this guy. I still kind of know this guy. In fact, I do know this guy, but I haven't talked to him in a long time. But one time he told me this story. Now, a lot of these stories, they seem very, very far-fetched. But because of the things I've seen this guy do in real life, I believe everything he tells me, even though there's no possible way that this story can be true. This guy has never had any kind of social fears whatsoever. He's like those weird people, those weird characters in movies that can't feel pain. He's like that, but he has zero social fear. Ever since he was a kid, he's had zero social fear. But he likes girls, and he's just like you. He's just like me. He looks across the room, and he sees a pretty girl, and he thinks to himself, you need to approach that pretty girl. You need to start a conversation with that pretty girl. You need to start and lead a conversation with that pretty girl and make her feel good so that she subconsciously associates those good feelings with you. So you might get together and have some fun. But he doesn't have any of the social anxiety baggage that most guys have. Most guys, when they approach a girl, there's two problems. One is, how do I overcome this social anxiety? And two, what should I say to make her fall in love with me? But he's never had the social anxiety problem, so he's always been interested in figuring out how to interact with girls to make them fall in love with him. But he's done it from a kind of a mad scientist, let's see how creative I can be standpoint. But he's telling me, or he told me, or he once told me, that in the last 5 years or so, girls have been slightly different. There's been a gradual shift in how girls radiate their potential interest to other guys in the vicinity. Before this shift happened, he would notice a girl. She would give him an IOI, an indicator of interest. That would tell him it was safe to approach and start a conversation. And that IOI in the old days, before the shift, before the dark times, had a high correlation with a genuine desire in her mind to maybe start a relationship with a guy. Now, this was a subconsciously held idea. Nobody had this idea consciously. But when she looked at a guy and she gave a guy a subconsciously delivered indicator of interest, that was genuinely an accurate representation of what was going on inside of her deep psyche. To see a guy and think, I like this guy, maybe we can be friends. But because of the massive explosion and how many girls are getting massive attention on social media, he's saying that these IOIs are no longer accurate. They're no longer correlated to a desire for her to create a deep relationship, for her to start a deep relationship with somebody fascinating. They're more a ping, a signal, a test to see if she can attract more attention from potential orbiters that might make her look good to the people she might want to have a relationship with. And this is making things very, very complicated. So my friend has this new strategy, or he developed this new strategy a couple of years ago. He would approach the girl, and on the way over, he would get some kind of subconscious energy from her, and he would be able to tell before he got there. He would receive the IOI, and when he received it from across the room, he didn't know if it was an accurate request for a potential relationship, or it was a request to get another orbiter. But on the way over, he would figure out which was which. And if he decided on the way over that it was just a request for another orbiter, he would switch his strategy and he would try to do anything he could to mess with her psyche. And he would come up with these crazy openers that would purposely be designed to knock her brain off balance, to knock her personality off balance, to make her so confused that she would question who she was and maybe even develop amnesia and forget what's happening and forget how this story started and forget where this story is going. And he joined this underground group of psychics. These psychics who had ditched all pretense of ethics and moral constraints. These psychics that had been removed from the guild of telepathic, clairvoyant palm readers, and they had decided to become rebels in the world of psychic mind control. And he would learn these techniques from these renegade psychics, and he would go over there, and if he had determined that this girl was not being honest in her IOI, if she was just looking for more attention from more guys, and she didn't care about the emotional damage she did to this potential guy, he would try to purposely knock her off balance with this psychic energy. And he would say things that would purposely discombobulate her personality, to give her amnesia, to make her question who she was. And she would stand there, and she would send these pings, and she would think to herself, here comes another guy that's going to say something and try to impress me. But then my friend would say something that would scramble her brain so much she wouldn't know how to respond. And he started to experiment just to see how much he could mess up their deep psychic subconscious personality with the things he would say to her. And one time he accidentally made this girl remember that she used to be a fundamental Christian. And she invited him to go to church. And so they went to church together. And he was sitting in church listening to this pastor talk about Jesus. But then halfway through the sermon, he got the feeling that the pastor was talking to him directly. And the pastor said, you might think I'm talking to a whole bunch of people at once, but I'm actually talking only to you. And all the stories in the Bible, all the stories about Jesus, all the stories about Moses in the Old Testament, these are all about parts of your deep psyche. And you will remember being told Bible stories as a child. If you remember the Bible stories as a child, you remember all of these different stories. These are all memories of your different psyche. And I know, because you're listening to me right now, I know, because you might be hypnotized right now and not know it until later, I know that you have discovered inside your brain some things about yourself that you knew are much different than other people. I know that you have discovered things inside your brain that you are proud to have about yourself that you know that other people don't have. I know that as a child you have discovered skills and intellects and ways of looking at the world inside your brain that you know are completely different than everybody else, but you don't know how to express these to other people. And maybe through these Bible stories you might find peace. Maybe through these Bible stories you might find happiness. Maybe through these Bible stories you might find Jesus. And they went back to her place, and nothing ever happened after that.